And Mayor Colin Reed is with us now. It's nice to have you here. Welcome. We just saw that the governor wants to spend $7 million, up to $7 million, to help the 70 residents at Underwood Estates. The state legislature still has to sign off on that and okay it. He's confident that's going to happen, though.
He is, and of course there are two assemblymen and Betty Little, our senator, there today backing that up. He's had to do this in the past for these sorts of emergencies. Very confident that the legislature will show the compassion that he's felt.
How quickly could that happen and the money start heading to the flood victims?
Well, you know, it's in two different stages. We took care of the immediate relief with the Red Cross and the various agencies we've been working with, various vouchers for food and for hotels around the area. But we knew that we really need to put something in place for about 3 months, and that will then give us time to put the more permanent solutions in place. So the governor also announced that 3-month interim fix where the state will pay their landlords directly, so the residents won't have to worry about anything for a few months while we get all these other measures in place.
How many of the residents have been able to come back to Underwood Estates?
Well, we've approved about 24 of the 70 residents to return. Doesn't mean all will return. It means that now their water and electrical have been safely reconnected again, but they could have still had some water damage, just not right up to the first floor. You've seen some of the mobile homes, though. You get wet underneath and mold could start sprouting as well. So we are very concerned about what will happen next couple of weeks as these places are reheated.
With the money that they hope to get from the state, will they be able to fix up or rebuild right on the same spots, on the same lots?
Many of those homes have been there pre-78. As of 1978, you weren't able to build places without being on a proper pad, and the places that are on the existing locations aren't allowed to be moved after 1978, kind of a code change of that year. So some of these most damaged units are older units, so to replace them would be to essentially demolish their old home and to put a pad in and then put in a new mobile home.
So is the DEC going to go to work right away on trying to fix the berm that runs along the river?
They are. Normally that would take months and months and months for the DEC to do all their permitting process, etc. Another nice announcement from the governor today is he's asked the DEC to streamline that process, bring it down to 2 weeks so we can get some repairs to that berm.
So with the state helping the homeowners, many who have lost almost everything they own, that's obviously great news.
It is. So we are hopeful that we could have a 3-month solution, bide us some time to explore these others, to have the 3-month solution and right out of the box look like we have this longer term solution. It's a miracle come true for these people.
Will the cost from this disaster only add to the woes for the city already under financial stress?
Certainly. We all know the financial challenges of the city, and this could end up being in the 6 figures to go and make the place safe and to hire the excavator that did manage to clear out the ice channel that allowed the river to start flowing, the flooding to abate. All the bills aren't in yet. Obviously, we're hopeful that the city could have some relief as well, but that's certainly not my concern right now. My concern is just to get people back in homes, and then we'll worry about that later on.
It was already a tough year for the city before this happened. You had to make up $1.5 million budget deficit. You ended up cutting 4 departments. Was that enough, or are you going to have to look at more cuts in 2018? Is the city still in the red?
We are. We knew coming into 2017 that we'd have 2 very difficult years. When you have to do rather drastic things, you start off with the drastic things that are actually the easiest to do, and you've been watching them yourselves. They're incredibly difficult to do, but they were the easy ones in retrospect. Now we have to look at even deeper cuts, and I'm worried. Hopefully some can be done through attrition.
Might you have to look at other departments or layoffs?
Hopefully attrition, possibly layoffs. I can't see how we could rationalize aggregate any more departments than we already have.
And you've said you don't want to raise taxes. You think taxes are about as high as they can go for people in Plattsburgh?
Well, we're going to have to raise taxes a little bit. What we have to do is make sure that mill rate doesn't go up faster than their ability to pay. People get raises, hopefully, according to the cost of living increases, the inflation rate. And the tax cap is really designed to keep you at increasing your expenses at the same rate of inflation.
Most people have probably heard by now that you and a city councilor had a very candid talk that was caught on mic and caught on camera in the council chambers. Much of the focus of that was on revenue that you believe the city has lost out on from a power plant, revenue that had been shared over the past 25 years with the town and county that's now dried up to almost nothing, and you want to know why. The city has hired lawyers to look into it. What's happening with that now, and have you and the town had any more discussions about this?
I think we're on the verge of having more discussions. Obviously, you don't want to roll out that discussion in a hidden mic kind of a situation. That was really unfortunate. I really regret that because I think it made it more difficult to have the discussion we're going to inevitably have to have. As you know, the city was receiving about $850,000 a year, which represents a good 8 or 9% of our entire tax base. And it's now down, it will now be down to about 7,000. We've dropped 99% in that revenue source. So we want to understand how that happened. Somewhere around 2008, 2009, we seem to have departed from that agreement, and the city's share dropped dramatically, whereas the town's share stayed about even. Their revenue didn't decline. So we want to understand what happened. As you know, we asked for the documents, then we went and foiled the documents. And then I hired a law firm to get the documents. They had a little bit more authority in accessing documents than even a FOIL does. And now we've got the documents and we've requested meetings with the town. Now we can go over the documents. We can see what they see. We can have a meaningful conversation. I'm hoping that they'll agree to have that very soon.
How much has this hurt relations between the city and the town?
Sincerely, I don't think there is. I think this is a rough spot. None of us were involved in the 1992 agreement. I think both of us would just like to figure out a way to move on. It does become a little bit more difficult when things become so public, when we hope they won't. But, you know, I think the town and the city have an awful lot of synergies and opportunities to work together, and both of us realize that.
The county, town, and city are all touting the expansion at the airport. Do you think the new airline that the county has chosen, the DOT still has to sign off on it, but do you think that new airline is going to be a good move for the airport in the area?
I think it's going to be great. In the marketing analysis, it looks like we expect twice as many passenger usages as we've had going to Boston. I'll miss Boston. My daughter lives in Boston. I love that route too. I'd love to see both of them stay. But I think this is going to create an awful lot of opportunities.
And there is some unhappiness. Penn Air has had about 30 employees based in Plattsburgh, and so there's concern about the loss of those jobs.
And we can't underestimate that too. You know, they hired a lot of employees here. I don't think that the new firm will have the same level of hiring. This was a relatively important maintenance hub for Pan Air. They were a good part of our community, and I really regret that we just can't have our cake and eat it too on this one.
And they did provide the honor flight plane and the pilot, which obviously has been important to the community.
That's right.
Customs and Immigration facility is built and up and running. What do you see that doing for Plattsburgh?
I've got no doubt that that's going to be important. I can easily envision flights from here to Paris. Something like 10 flights a year going to Paris, or a day, going to Paris from Montreal and Toronto. And if we could have just 1% of that market, I think that'd be amazing.
Is there a hotel in the near future? Is it looking promising for a hotel right next to the airport?
I think so. As you know, in the last round of Red Sea funding, there wasn't a slice just for that hotel, but I'm still optimistic there will be a couple $1 million of seed money put the infrastructure in to make it succeed. And I want it to succeed because of the entire footprint of the airport. The city really only has one little postage stamp, but that's exactly where the hotel is going to go, and that would be a nice revenue source for the city as well.
The city, of course, is in the middle of a revitalization project for the downtown, the state kicking in $10 million in grant money. A few folks downtown, a few downtown business owners gathered last week and said that they were unhappy with the direction the city is moving on one big piece of the project, the idea of the city center going there in the Durkee Street parking lot. They fear that it may be too big of a project, that perhaps a developer that comes in might look for a big box store or create a mall there, and they would rather see the city focus more on the small businesses downtown, and they thought it wasn't really that popular of an idea when public meetings were held.
You know, I think they're looking at a 2-year-old playbook with all the various public processes at the end of 2016, early 2017. I think the public very clearly said that we would like that Durkee Street parking lot, for want of a better term right now, to be more in the public domain. Let's not put a large retail complex right in front of some of our most important businesses downtown. The other concern they had was adequate parking. Some of the businesses right in that Bridge and Durkee Street area were quite concerned that they may lose the parking lot that they've taken advantage of. Well, that's also built into the plan. 80 additional spots along Durkee Street, another 14 additional new spots of convenient parking right on Bridge Street, exactly where those businesses are seeking more parking, in addition to another 280 spots up in the Margaret Street area in larger lots, consolidated lots, that would end up adding 100 extra spots.
The city hired a consultant. Are they going to recommend paid parking in the downtown?
They're going to recommend a mix. If you really want to park right in front of the place that you want to shop in, from what I've seen in the preliminary reports, is there might be free parking for maybe the first hour. So you can run into the co-op, pick up some groceries, and then leave. But if you want to spend an evening listening to entertainment at a restaurant downtown, maybe it might be $2 or $3.
A lot of villages and cities have meters. Burlington certainly does. Could paid parking be a revenue generator for the city?
We'd be happy if it just paid for the cost of maintaining the system and creating more available spaces.